Alright, you guys, what's going on? It's Thomas here. I'm here at my dad's house, and I wanted to talk about my experience taking mushrooms for the first time, and in particular taking a heroic dose, which is any dose basically above 5 grams of mushrooms. And so it's a long story, so we'll get into this, but there's definitely a lot of interesting things, and you might want to just listen to it. Maybe if you take it, you might have a similar experience, or maybe you've taken it and had a similar experience, in which you can post your comments in the comment section, and maybe we can get into a discussion. But so basically, the story starts out. So I buy mushrooms, and I buy mushrooms off of the dark net, Penis Envy, to be exact. And it's kind of a funny story because before, I'd actually tried buying LSD, and it didn't go well. Let's put it that way. I knew that you had to test it, and so I got it. I put it in the test kit or whatnot, and it didn't even register. So that meant it was fake, and it came from, I think it came from Berkeley or something. So I'm wondering, maybe either it was police or somebody just setting up a fake account and selling and scamming people, basically, right? And that was going to be my first experience, and so I opted for mushrooms, right, as my first experience. And so I basically kept them in the fridge. I got the item in the mail. I kept it in the fridge for like about a week, and I was just basically plotting when was a good time to take this dose. Sorry guys if I'm speaking a little bit low, because my dad is actually sleeping, and I'm in the garage filming this basically, so I'm trying to keep it down. And so I'm like, all right, when is a good time? And so at the time, I was going through a number of different struggles. Me and my brother were living in a I think like 500 square foot or 500 square foot apartment. It didn't have any beds. It was a studio. It had one bathroom. It was very, very tiny, and we were paying like almost $2,000 for this apartment, which is a lot of money, even at this time, but especially a few years ago. And so anyways, at that time also, I was having job struggles. I wasn't making as much money. I was, new graduate. I just basically studied all this time, and my career, the job that I chose, is basically going under. And not only that, but I also am struggling with like managing my emotions. I have a lot of anxiety and don't really know how to manage it. And I'm trying to improve myself, and so I'm going through struggles with that. I'm also struggling with, loneliness, not really having anybody to talk to, having no friends, not being able to afford quality food, and making too much basically to apply for EBT or stuff like that, right? And so, yeah, and isolation. So like not being able basically to get out of my apartment because I had no money, right? And so it was a rough time, but it was also a fun time. And there's a whole lot of good memories and a whole lot of stories I could really tell about me and my brother living in that apartment. And so it was a night where it was a Sunday night, and I was feeling a little bit frustrated, and I almost felt like I was edging madness. So I basically had this document of how to improve myself. And so like, I don't know, like at the time it made sense to make it, but looking back, I'm just like, why did I spend so much time? I mean, I would spend, hours and hours working on this document and basically just listing like random things I should focus on, like finances or friends or um, like things to manage my anxiety, like being still. And it would just be like these principles and maybe even like occult ideas and such in this one document, and I'd organized it. And obviously, it's basically nothing you could, take action on. So I didn't really know why I was doing it. I didn't really know how to spend my time. I didn't know at that time, because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and it's still something, well, that's what I'm doing right now. But at that time, I didn't know how to be successful. I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know how to be really successful in anything. And so I was struggling. And so that night I was just like, fuck it, let's just take the mushrooms and see what happens. Maybe the mushrooms can help me out of the struggle. And I don't know. I was also looking for something fun to do, because it was Sunday, and I basically had spent the entire weekend doing nothing. I had not gone out, and so I was bored, and I was doing nothing the next day either. Right, so. And so my brother was there, and so I was like, okay, he would be my sitter or whatnot. And so initially I weigh out the grams of mushrooms. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a heroic dose. And I take a heroic dose because I watch I watch a little bit of Terrence McKenna, right, beforehand. But in particular, I watch Dennis McKenna, and he's talking to the London Real guy. And he's talking about heroic doses. And he's talking about, going to how if you take a heroic dose versus a small dose, you could experience going into the abyss and experience this whole new world, basically. And so in my head, I'm like, all right, I only get to take mushrooms one time. And so I'm like, you might as well, if I only get one first chance at taking mushrooms, I might as well experience it all. And maybe there's a factor in that. Maybe, there's something to be said about, starting off taking a heroic dose versus, just easing your way up, taking smaller doses, then heroic doses, or even, doing it that way. So I did exactly that. I started weighing out, 7 grams, and I'm just like, well, fuck it. I'll just, do all 10 grams of the mushrooms. And so I do that, and then we decided to go out for ice cream, me and my brother. And so we were driving to Chick-fil-A to get some ice cream. And on the way, right, and so like 15 minutes has passed, he's playing music. And then Sludge Factory, he starts playing Sludge Factory by Alice in Chains, right? And I begin to feel I don't know really what you want to call it. It felt like an entity basically was coming into me and overtaking my body, right? And in my imagination, actually, I could see this entity, and I could kind of get his essence just from his figure, and almost like he was communicating telepathically with me. At least these are the thoughts that I was having in my head, right? And so I could tell this being was a very structured being, a being that was in charge of taking me on this roller coaster, but in charge, like almost he had duties, and like he was very disciplined and robotic and mechanical in his duties. But it was definitely another entity from another realm, maybe an alien. And so he started to overtake me. And and so we go to the Chick-fil-A, right? And I'm actually feeling at this point kind of in a good mood, but I'm also feeling unsettled because this thing is basically entering me, and it does not feel good. It feels very, very uncomfortable. Like there's a pressure like all around me, like something is entering my body, right? And so, um, I'm in a good mood, and then I started to notice that I started seeing energies. So, with my brother, obviously, and feeling energies. With my brother, I felt like obviously a very masculine energy, very protective energy, and like even like the lady, handing us ice cream or whatnot. Um, I saw, her. I actually saw colors, and like aura, like an aura of energy, basically, around her. Um, and so I've never experienced anything like that, and so I was like, wow, that's really a crazy thing to see and witness. Um, and so on the drive back, I start, basically reflecting on my life and just basically the struggles I've lived living in Reseda, California. I don't know if I mentioned that. But yeah, we had an apartment in Reseda, California, which is close to Van Nuys. Um, and so I'm reflecting, and basically I start crying, and I'm getting a little bit emotional, and so we get out of the car and we're going to the gate, basically back into our apartment, and it's kind of funny because so I see this guy pretty often in our apartment complex, and he's like sort of a strange guy. Like he has a tattoo on his arm here, and it's like a skull, uh, and he basically wears the same outfit every single day, but his energy is slightly off. Like you can tell he suffers from a lot of anxiety and whatnot because he acts sort of erratic, right? There's I think a spider basically went in my shoe or something. But he acts erratic, and so it kind of makes you uncomfortable when you're in his presence, right? And so we pass him on our way, and he sees me crying, and I'm basically sobbing at this point, and it's funny because I guess I was embarrassed, and I was wondering basically what he thought. We never really formally met, right? We never really said anything, but uh, anyways, so we make it into the apartment, and we have this one lady who's above us, and we hear her all the time basically, and I maybe tell another story about basically the things that we would hear up there, but uh, basically, I would keep a note to, we would always, try to keep it down for one reason or the other, but once I entered the house, it was almost like I was a crackhead, and it was almost like, well, I acted basically like a crackhead. Like I acted like, the people that you see outside of the gas station on drugs or whatnot, and are just, they're tripping, right? They're tweaking. And so I was tweaking, right? And this is another interesting thing, right? So I worked as a PTA, and I would see patients, and I've experienced this multiple times, but when I see certain patients, it's almost like their soul, basically. We have connected soul wise, and mm, I adopt maybe their way of talking, or uh, maybe parts of their speech, like what they say, or maybe even some of their facial expressions. And so I noticed, while I was talking, that sort of happened with one of my patients, and I had not done it before. Uh, and so yeah, I was like, Gabe, give me some water, give me some water. I'm thirsty. And so he gives me water, and I just throw it across the room. And so at this point, I'm feeling crazy. Like I feel like, I can do anything and nothing matters. And anyways, and my brother starts asking questions. And at this point, it's like, and this is a very strange and interesting feeling. Maybe you guys have felt this on psychedelics, but it felt like basically I couldn't not tell the truth. So basically, if you asked me anything, I would be completely honest with you and tell you, and even my deepest, darkest secrets. And so I remember that being sort of uncomfortable because my brother, I can't remember exactly what he was asking me, but he was asking me these questions, and I remember answering and kind of be like, man, I really shouldn't answer those questions because he may reference them back and it can get me in some trouble or whatnot. And so and I don't know, like I also felt obviously very vulnerable, but I trusted my brother and felt safe or whatnot. Okay, and so after that, and I'm also very loud and making a lot of noise, and so I think the neighbor, probably at this point hears us. And anyways, I quiet down. My brother basically puts me to bed. He's going to sleep. He has work the next morning, and at that point, I begin to enter basically an imagination realm, or well, at the time, I thought it was real, and I thought this was real life. And so I think I'm in another world. This is kind of hard to recall because it did happen a couple years ago, and even after your trip, it's just hard to recall certain things. But I can't really remember what exactly I was doing. Maybe walking the streets, but all of a sudden I begin to break laws and break social norms, and it's almost like I can't help it. Like there's just something in me, and I'm just doing all this crazy shit. The next thing you know, the cops come up on me and are basically wanting to arrest me. And I think I upped the stakes to the point where they are forced to kill me. And I just remember all the people's faces, and they were very scary and negative and hateful, and it made me, when the cop had shot me, then it made me think of all the people that I have interacted with recently, which at that time I was getting a psychological evaluation for autism spectrum disorder. And so I thought of like my psychiatrist's face, and some of my patients' faces, and all the people that have interacted with me. They just had this mean look, like this mean energy, like they were some higher being basically looking down on me and being like, wow, what an ignorant fool this guy is. And it was not a good experience. And so then I die, right? And my soul leaves my body, and then I enter a hell realm. And basically I'm in, I think, like a bookstore or something, in some sort of situation, and I think I asked like the clerk or something a question. There's some situation that was going on, and this thing, like the question that I asked, basically repeats itself, and like I'm like on a stuck loop of going through the situation over and over and over and over and over again, and I'm just like, oh fuck, like hope this doesn't last forever, because I mean, this would be super painful if it lasts forever, if I, continued on this loop forever. And at that point, I began to get this feeling of thirst. Like, imagine, if you were super, super thirsty, like, the most thirsty that you've ever been, that you can think of. And that feeling, just constantly being with you, and you're just repeating this loop. And at that point, I began to become really, really worried, and this happened for a while, for a long while. And like I said, I interpret that as a hell realm. And so I get out of that, and I basically became, after I get out of that, I enter what I would describe as a holographic universe. And maybe not holographic necessarily. It's really like your imagination, right? But like in a low FPS, or like a low frame rate. It is like glitchy, basically, what it looked like. And so my soul was flying, and my soul was this is gonna sound strange, but like a reptilian type of figure, muscular. It was just strange. Like, I don't know why. It was a black figure, all black, and it had wings, and it basically flew. And I might have had a sword. I'm not sure. But I flew to a castle where I saw a dragon. It basically breathed a bunch of fire and flew away. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing a real life dragon fly. And shortly after that, I see certain symbols. I see the serpent eating its own tail symbol. And then I begin to get certain information. So I see basically the timeline of humanity, and for whatever reason, Jesus is like, the point of just like the biggest picture in this, or a prominent one. It's like it was made known to me that it was a prominent. He was a prominent figure, basically, and but that humanity, had basically a start and an end, and it had a timeline, it had a history. And after this, I would say that I entered what I would describe as evolution, or basically time traveling. And so I started off as this small thing, maybe like a baby, or like an embryo, or something, and then I evolved slowly. And as I slowly evolved, I began to enter into this other realm, and I would call this like a universal realm. Basically, it was a realm that was just black all around me, and I could basically have whatever I wanted, whatever I wished for, I could have, and all I had to do is think about it and wish it, and all of a sudden, this duplicating force would just start working and working and working, and slowly would manifest it in front of me, and I could have it. But while I was incarnated in that, I did have a couple of realizations. One of them was just a vision of my highest potential, and so I saw like a picture or an image of me and my brother, and we had this big mansion in Los Angeles on a hill, and the grass was green, and I had a red Ferrari, my brother had a blue Ferrari, and I also had a vision of maybe who I was in the spiritual realm, or maybe my wife or guardian angel. And it was, you know, this tall woman, taller, like skinny, right? But she had long black hair, and she was a sacred woman. And as I think about it more, I'm thinking, you know, maybe this was my guardian angel. But I have a whole nother story, basically, about my guardian angel and my experience with my guardian angel, and that's a whole other thing. The other thing that this is an interesting one, was it was made known to me that basically people, or men in particular, were categorized into 7 levels and 11 tiers from there. And that I was apparently in this 7th level, which is like the ultimate man or so. But I was at only a 3rd tier, and that actually my brother was at 11, which was interesting. And then this was another interesting realization about. This is just random, and I guess I'll just mention it because I experienced it, right? That, you know, girls basically are attracted to this sexual energy that men have, and also it was physical. So the 11 tiers basically were sort of based off of your sexual energy, okay? And your sexual energy was like which tier that you're in, right? So it was interesting to experience that, and like basically girls' attraction is based off of that scale, but that's not necessarily your rank amongst men, because they're ranked in 7 different categories that, you know, I guess women don't account for. You know, you know, at that point, like I said, I was a single person, and lonely, and obviously I'd never dated before, and I'd already finished college, and why exactly that is, that's a whole nother video, but it's not by chance, let's put it that way. It's definitely a whole other story that we could get into, but all right, so after that, so I'm in this universal realm where, you know, like I said, I could have anything I want, but there's this lingering pain inside of me, and regret. And the regret was that, you know, why didn't I do more things in life? Why didn't I be more courageous? You know, do the things that I really wanted to do, and live life to its fullest. And so that lingering pain was very significant, and almost to a point where it made me very uneasy. And I thought, you know, if I had to live eternally like this, it would just be too much pain to handle, basically. And then it made me think, you know, what if I went into the world again, and maybe what if I got a whole other, you know, opportunity at this, and maybe I can get rid of that pain. And so I'm thinking, maybe, you know, maybe there's something to that. Maybe there is something to that, and maybe we do, you know, reincarnate and live lives again, and you know, until we get to a point where spiritually we feel okay within ourselves, and then we spend time in the universal realm. Maybe, you know, I've never heard of that theory before. Maybe there's something to that. Anyways, okay, so after that, and I just want to mention this, when I was entering the realm, the Kanye song, "But He's Another Hit, Barry Bonds," yeah, like that song was playing in it, and so that was kind of funny. But it also, if you listen to that song, matches like the energy of that realm, because like I said, you can manifest anything, you can have whatever you wanted. So anyways, after that, I woke up, and I did not mention this, but this is super funny. So when I was dying, and when I was being murdered by the police, basically being shot, uh, I had the idea, right? And actually, I think this is what got me shot. Actually, is I randomly decided in this world to start shitting myself and pissing myself. Okay, and so, and I actually did it in real time. Now, luckily, I had the wherewithal to not shit my pants, and I didn't do that. But I did. I was like, and I thought, okay, yeah, that's a little bit too much. I'm not gonna shit. I'm not gonna shit myself because I think part of me back in the head knew. I'm like, all right, look, I'm just tripping. This isn't real. Um, so I just pissed the bed, and I had to throw that mattress out. And that was actually an expensive mattress. It was a good mattress. I couldn't sleep on it again. It would smell, and I do kind of regret, pissing myself. I wish I wouldn't have done that. But it was scary. It was very scary to die, and it's very called for what I, basically was thinking of I was experiencing, right? And so I wake up naked in my own piss. I wake up naked because as I was dying, actually, or being harassed by the police, which led up to my death, I actually took off all my clothes in this realm. And so I would actually, I wasn't talking, while I was stripping, but I did do some things like take off my clothes, like piss myself. And so, anyways, I wake up and it's like it's 3:40 a.m. It's maybe even like 4 in the morning. And so this trip, I took the mushrooms like at 7 o'clock, and I wake up at 4 in the morning. So this was a pretty long trip for mushrooms. And so then I go into the mirror and I look at myself. I'm like, do I have any bruises? Whoa, what happened, right? And then I get this realization, that I should treat my dad better, because at this point, leading up to this point of life, I really didn't treat my dad very well throughout my childhood and in my teen years. And now as an adult, I've come to appreciate him and appreciate the importance of having a father figure, something that I didn't necessarily think was necessary or appreciate, but though my brother did. And I think there's something to be said by the way we turned out, and there's definitely I truly believe that every man needs a father figure. They need an example, a real life example of what they could be. And so I call my dad and I say, I'm sorry basically for how I treated you, and I basically describe the trip to him. And when I tell him, I pissed the bed or whatnot, he starts busting out laughing. And he's actually in Colorado snowboarding, and his girlfriend, I guess I'm on speakerphone, I didn't even realize, but she also starts cracking up. And so after that, I go for a walk outside of my apartment, and I'm walking. It's like, at this point 5 in the morning, and I'm just, in awestruck of all the things that I saw. And I'm just like, dude, what did I just go through? Like, I'm thinking all of this stuff is real, and maybe there is something to it, because I didn't have any sort of, preconceived ideas before taking mushrooms. I actually basically didn't know what to expect. I wasn't into Terrence McKenna. Like I said, I did see some of his stuff, but not necessarily about psychedelics. He talked more, he talks always about psychedelics, but he was talking more about, the things that I watched about evolution and about the future of humanity. And so, I go back into the house, and I start to feel this bit of anxiety, okay, coming on, this bit of panic. And this is a feeling, basically that would continue for the next 7 days. And so I begin to feel, the beginning stages of it. and the next day I feel it super heavy, and it's basically a feeling. You feel like you're mentally unstable, and at any point in time, you could just go crazy, and cause havoc and just start dying. It literally feels like this is really the best description. It's like it feels like at any point in time, you can just fall on the floor and start dying, and call an ambulance. Like at all points in time, you just feel like you need to call an ambulance. You need to call an ambulance. There's something wrong with you. And imagine having that feeling for an entire week. It was absolutely terrible. It was terrible. I wish I would have known, maybe to prevent that, I could have, taken Xanax or something like that I was having a panic attack. I really didn't know at that time what that was or what that felt like. So yeah, that's basically the mushroom story. My first experience at mushrooms, and I don't think I'm going to take them again. I'm glad I took the dose that I did, because I will never probably take a higher dose than that. I might do ayahuasca or something in the future, but then again, my brain already, I struggle, with things, so I'm just like, probably wouldn't be the best to continue drug use or whatnot. So that's the story. Do all of the regular stuff like comment and subscribe, and I will be doing videos about my lifestyle. Right now I'm at my dad's house. I'm kind of relaxing a little bit, but I usually live in my car and be making videos about that and basically telling my life story. And I really want to this YouTube channel to connect with other people online. So this is my first video, and I look forward to making more videos. Peace.